Hello everyone, I am Eshaan Aggarwal and I am a member of the Palisadoes Foundation. I am the accepted GSoC candidate for the Improved Event Management project, and this is my overview of what I have done in the first couple of weeks as a part of the Palisadoes Foundation for this project. So in the first set of my deliverables have been divided into two parts basically. The first part was changes to the backend architecture. As we know that backend is the backbone of any critical project, and there were some legacy things or some changes that were really required in the Lava API so as to make it more performant and to ensure better sustainability for the future. And this relates closely with my event management project. So the major changes that I had done in this month include moving to a more SQL like approach. As we are dealing with a lot of data, like let's say if we are dealing with an event, there will be many event attendees for the same. Previously, all of this data was stored in a mongoose model by embedding of the documents. This meant that all of the event attendee data was replicated and stored on the event itself, which is not a good approach to follow in the future because of two reasons. The first being it will become non-performant very soon. The second being all of this data to be fetched would require multiple mongoose queries in the backend to happen. Moreover, this would not be a centralized approach where all of the data is accessible centrally, and then the user can come and reach out and take whatever data he wants. So we decided to move to a more SQL-like approach in which all of the data is stored in different tables, and then since Mongoose does not support relations, we try to mimic relations by creating relational tables. And this has been the approach that the Lava previously took for the implementation of the tags feature. And now we have even moved most of the event handlers to the same approach so that the same is more performant. Moreover, as a part of the event management project, we have introduced new models and also new resolvers for event projects and tasks. Now any event, while organizing any event, obviously there are some tasks that the organization needs to conduct. So first of all, you can group them into projects so that all of the related tasks stay under the same header and you can easily access them. Then every project can have multiple tasks, and every task can be assigned some volunteers which would be members of the org who are playing an active role in the organization of the event. Every volunteer would be able to keep track of the task that they have been assigned. What's the deadline for the task? Has it been completed or not? What is the basic amount of description that they are expected to do, and all of anything relevant. Moreover, we also introduced the API already had support for event attendees. Now we have also introduced the support for event check-ins. Basically, whenever the event starts, now the user would be the administrators would be able to check the user in and provide and basically mark their attendance and store information like where they were seated, what time did they check in. This all data can be used for processing in the later steps as a part of this project itself. Moreover, the storing of this data would allow the creation of name tags, which would be a feature that would be implemented in the admin. Moreover, I would like to take a moment to highlight the important role that testing played in all of this project. First of all the files and all the changes that I have done had 100% testing coverage, and this is something that aligns with the philosophy of the Lava. Moreover, the importance of this testing was made evident to me by the means of this project, because as the first part of this project, I had to move to a more SQL-like approach, and that involved rewriting and making changes to a lot of existing functionality. And as a human, it's not possible for me to test out all of them in a very short duration, right? But it was due to these component testings that we have written for every file, I was able to quickly spot out the errors in my implementation and correct them as needed. That's why testing is important, not only to ensure the functionality at the release time, but also whenever there's a change being made to the code base, testing allows us to ensure that the existing functionality remains intact. And that is why I'm so grateful for this Talava's philosophy of having 100% testing coverage for every change made. Moreover, the second challenge that we faced was migration to Apollo Server 4. This was not a plan of the initial project, but this was something that was critically needed by the backend API. And thus, I was lucky enough to work on this with Kanishka on a short-term notice so that we could migrate to Apollo Server 4. The Apollo Server 4 is previously the Talava API was using Apollo Server 2, which had been deprecated for a long period of time. Even its successor Apollo 3 had been deprecated, and we needed to move to Apollo Server 4. The migration had been conducted in 2 steps as recommended by the official Apollo docs, by first migrating to version 3 and then migrating to version 4. The migration was important from a point of view of security, as a lot of features in Apollo 2 had been deprecated, and moreover this allowed us to provide support for new features like subscriptions and a re-implementation of the auth and the directives, so that the same can be more scalable and can be done in a way that's been agreed upon by the community. Moreover, we also had an added benefit that the UI of Apollo Server 4 and the functionality that it exposes is way better. The query builder experience that you get right out of the box is something that was lacking in the previous implementation of Apollo Server 2, and we are getting this implementation for free by just the virtue of this migration. So this is one tool that I believe personally would help developers a lot in the coming days, especially developers that are working on the admin portals and as well as the clients, because this is the primary mode of communication for developers that are working on the clients with the backend, and having a nice UI which shows inline documentation and has a query builder right in the editor is something that would benefit them both. And that has been my work for the Palisadoes Foundation till now. Thank you for listening to me.